Greetings, everyone. I'm Bunny Bishop, and I work for the Nevada Division of Water Resources. Today, I'd like to start by thanking Ed James for organizing this Carson River Watershed workshop and for inviting me to participate. I'm going to talk to you about plans for planning and the goals of the Water Planning and Drought Resiliency section. The goal of the section is to assist the state and its local governments and citizens in developing good, effective plans for the use of water. If you'd like to know more about the tasks that have been assigned to our section, you can find many details in NRS 540. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the water planning team. There's myself, Bunny Bishop. I'm the chief of the Water Planning and Drought Resiliency section. I also have, working with me, Nicole Goring, a water resource specialist, and Will Boyer, a water resource specialist. On the agenda today, I'm going to talk about water planning, water conservation, go into drought a little bit, a brief overview of the Floodplain Management program, and talk about some of the outreach and education goals that we have. Here, I've outlined a few goals of the water planning section. We seek to become a liaison between federal and state agencies and between federal and state agencies and the Nevada communities and stakeholders. We're looking to update water planning publications, and that includes developing a contemporary, comprehensive state water plan. We're also looking to provide water planning assistance to our Nevada communities and stakeholders, and also providing water policy and planning in an advisory capacity. To develop a useful water resource plan, I believe it needs to be an integrated water resource plan. When you start looking at water planning, you need to take the basics into consideration and look at supply and demand issues. You need to look at future population growth, future economic growth. I think you need to look at future climate conditions. But to have a truly comprehensive plan, I believe you need to have components of water conservation planning, drought planning, and floodplain management. And these are all issues that are very relevant to Nevada. Nevada is the driest state in the nation, as all of you know. And here we tend to go back and forth between extremes. We can have statistically what an average year is, but more often, from what I've seen, we have less than average years that are punctuated by wet years. I was once told by somebody that here in Nevada, every drought ends in a flood. And from what I've seen, this appears to be true. Over the last few months, the water planning team has been having many meetings and discussions about the update of the state water plan, and we've developed an outreach strategy. We're going to distribute a public survey because we want to find out from the citizens of Nevada what they perceive as being the most critical issues facing water planning in our state are. We also are planning to have regional discussion and listening sessions, and we had hoped to do this in person in the spring of 2021. However, with COVID and quarantine, we will reassess whether or not this is possible at that time, and if we need to, we'll pivot to a virtual platform. We also plan to stand up an advisory group made up of representatives from different state agencies, community officials, and the public at large. This advisory group will review and comment on the state water plan. We also think that we need to have a technical working group that will work on specific sessions of the water plan. That way we can bring in experts to make comment and contributions to appropriate sections of the water plan. And then when we have that draft, we can provide that to the advisory group for comment and feedback. The other thing our team has been doing is a comprehensive literature review. We've been looking at what other states have in their plans in the arid West. And what is the arid West? Well, I'm happy you asked, because I have provided a climate atlas image from the NOAA website, and basically the arid West lies west of the 100th meridian. And you can see this because it's roughly in the middle of the country where everything that goes west starts to turn brown. And why do we think this is important? Because we're not the only ones living in an arid landscape. We have neighboring states that are dealing with issues that are similar to ours. And it's good to look at what they have in their plans because maybe there's something in there that we hadn't thought of. And we're not just limiting it to our neighbors. We're also looking at what other states have in water plans that are in the east because they might have some good ideas too, even though they get more water than we do. And we're not just limiting it to our country, we're also looking at other countries around the world. There are many places that are dealing with water issues that are similar to Nevada. There are other arid regions around the world. And we're taking into consideration what they have tried and what their best practices are and what they have in their plans. We've also been taking into consideration scientific outlooks and forecasts, and we've been doing an inventory of available data. We want to develop an update of the state water plan that is based on good planning and sound scientific documentation and data. If you want to know more about this climate atlas, please visit the link at the bottom of the slide. As we move forward in this water planning process, we'll be reaching out to our water planning partners because we'll be seeking input from all of these planning partners as we're developing the state plan. We don't want to do this in a silo alone. I think it takes cooperation between all the stakeholders in order to have a truly comprehensive plan. It's about everybody getting a voice and finding out what the issues and concerns are to those individual entities. So we'll be reaching out to you if you haven't heard from us already. The water planning team has also been having many discussions about how we can provide support and assistance to counties and cities in the development of their own water resource plans. In 2019, the legislature passed Senate Bill number 150. And basically what this said is that a county or city needs to develop and maintain a water resource plan of their own. The initial plan must be adopted on or before July 1st, 2029, and it needs to be updated every 10 years. We're aware that there are many counties who already have a water plan in place, and there are many cities who already have a plan in place, or perhaps they are part of a larger regional plan. If you'd like to know more about SB 150, I've provided a link at the bottom of this webpage. But one of the things we've been thinking about as we are collecting resources and gathering data and best practices for the state water plan is how we can make a comprehensive list of all these resources to better assist the counties and cities in the development of their own plans if they request assistance and support. Another way the Nevada Division of Water Resources planning team can assist the counties and the cities with the development of their own plan is by helping them navigate through all of the resources we have at NDWR. This is a clip or a snapshot of our website. And as you'll see on this particular page, I'm looking at the water planning tab, and there are a lot of resources about water planning. And there are some drought information resources. And here's another slide that's a clip of our NDWR website, and I'm showing you more resources and data that are available. Here I'm on the mapping and data tab, and I'm looking at water use availability. And you can find pumpage inventories, crop inventories, stream flow data, water level data, all kinds of pumpage and water use data on this particular tab. And I wanted to also point out that next to it you can look and see there's a mapping application links tab, and on this one you have access to interactive maps that will show you points of diversion and places of use by permit number. So NDWR has a lot of data that will be very useful to communities as they start developing or updating their water resource plans. Let's take a closer look at pumpage and crop inventories. Many of you are probably familiar with what's in these reports, but perhaps there are a few of you who are not. On an annual basis, NDWR staff go out and estimate the amount of groundwater pumpage for select basins throughout Nevada. These reports are either by water year or calendar year. You just need to look at the cover to see which. But these reports are really great for water planning because they have a wealth of information about those select basins. They not only have groundwater use and pumpage estimated by either reading meters or by other methods as described in the report, but they also have groundwater commitments. There's information about historical groundwater use and pumpage by manner of use. The difference between crop inventories and pumpage inventories is that crop inventories are focused on irrigation. Here I have the Carson Valley Water Year 2017 Groundwater Pumpage Inventory Report, and this is a clip from that report showing one of the figures, and there are many figures and tables, and there are appendices in there with data by permit number and point of diversion, but this particular figure is showing the comparison between groundwater commitments and estimated pumpage. Again, there's a lot of great information on the NDWR website that is good data and resources for water planning. Let's talk water conservation. Our team reviews the water conservation plans that are submitted by water purveyors throughout the state as required by NRS 540. Basically, what our team does is we review these plans to make sure that they have all the components as required by NRS 540. And we also provide technical assistance if somebody's having a difficulty with a particular element or item that is required in the plan. The Water Planning and Drought Resiliency team has also been given the task of drought planning. We do have a state of Nevada drought response plan, and it's a great document. It has good information about the different types of drought and the impacts of those different types of drought. It talks about the drought monitoring system and the response committee that came together when we had the last drought. And it also talks about the drought response activities that need to be done. This plan reads more like an emergency action plan. And what our team is considering is what different types of enhancements can we make to this plan? Because to become truly drought resilient, you need to have planning and mitigation in place. And there's not really much about mitigation in this drought response plan. So we need to take it to the next step. If we want to be more drought resilient in Nevada, we need to plan and mitigate. Speaking of drought planning, mitigation, and response, this is a snapshot of the U.S. Drought Monitor website for October 1st, 2020, showing the current state of Nevada as far as drought. And as you can see, we do have some areas of extreme and exceptional drought going on in the state. Basically, this is a result of having a very hot, dry summer in northern Nevada, and down in southern Nevada, the monsoonal rains didn't really show up and produce much. And we find ourselves, because of all these factors, in an increasingly dry situation. I've been in contact with the state climatologist, and we've reached out to other partners, and we are monitoring and keeping an eye on this situation as it develops. Basically, as I had mentioned before, it might be that we're going into a below average winter, but the National Weather Service is saying that we are heading into a La Nina scenario, and basically those years tend to be kind of 50-50, whether they're going to be wet or below average as far as precipitation. What I'm saying is we need to watch and keep a close eye on this situation and hope that we get a decent wetting snowpack this year. If you want to find out more information about the Drought Monitor, there's a link at the bottom of the slide. If any of you out there would like to help assist with drought monitoring, you can. Here I've included a fact sheet on the National Program for Condition Monitoring Observer Reports on Drought. This fact sheet has information about what the program's about, what they're trying to do, and how you can help by reporting observations out in the field on drought conditions. If you'd like to know more information, you can use this link I've included at the bottom of the slide. And observations are really important because not only do they help verify what is being put on the U.S. Drought Monitor, but it also helps inform response and planning. So check it out. Now let's go from one extreme to the other. I'd like to introduce you to the Floodplain Management team because the flood program is also part of the Water Planning and Drought Resiliency section. The current Floodplain Manager is Aaron Warnock. Sarah Fitchner is the Floodplain Mapping Coordinator. Carlos Rindo is our Public Outreach Manager, and Kayla Meyer is the Flood Program Specialist. This group does a great job managing the flood program. So now let's talk a little bit about what the flood program duties are. The Floodplain Management Program basically administers the NFIP program for the state of Nevada. And the way they do this is by being a liaison between federal agencies and the NFIP participating communities in Nevada. They do this by helping to organize and provide opportunities for training and workshops. The flood program team also supports any kind of map changes or any kind of mapping needs and coordination and support for what is called discovery. And basically there's discovery process for mapping going on the Truckee River and also on the Humboldt River, and basically that's a big large-scale remapping process. So they provide support for mapping. The team also provides support for hazard mitigation planning, and they do this by attending LEPSI meetings, which are local emergency planning meetings, and they give support and technical assistance for mitigation planning and for the state hazard mitigation plan. Another way the team also helps the NFIP communities in Nevada is by providing technical assistance, which that just is a broad realm of questions that we see come our way having to do with elevation certificates, or interpreting flood maps, or compliance issues, or regulatory issues, things that are in the ordinances, all of that. And one of the things that the Floodplain Manager does in coordination with FEMA is conducts community assistance visits. Now, yes, I know that basically they are audits of the community's flood program, but I don't like to think of it that way. I look at it as an opportunity to go in and meet your floodplain managers and get to know them and to ask them, how's your program going? Do you have any areas that need improvement? Do you need support? Do you need training? Can we help you and can we assist you? For outreach and education, I'm going to focus on outreach first. I am so happy to share with you that we distributed our first Nevada Division of Water Resources, Water Planning, and Drought Resiliency newsletter. And our first issue had some very interesting articles, I think. We introduced the team, basically myself and Nicole and Will. And then we had an article about drought decision-making tools that you can use. Included a section on Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant opportunities, and there are many. And I included links to the different grants that are available. And some of the grants at the time of distribution were open to receive notices, they had active notices of funding opportunity, and those dates can be found in there. And then I included links to all of the Water Smart program grants, because basically it's a good idea to know it's in those grants, because submitting those grants takes time and planning. So even if they're not open and accepting grant applications now, if you know that you have a project that fits into a certain program that they have, then you can get ready so that when the next NOFO comes around, the Notice of Funding Opportunity is open, you're ready to go. We also had an interesting article that Will did that was an interview, a question and answer interview with the Tonopah Public Utilities about the replacements of their meters. And we also included a snapshot of the Drought Monitor and a link to that website. If you'd like to be put on the email list to receive future publications of our newsletter, please reach out to myself or Nicole Goring, and my contact information will be coming up. Nicole and Will's information you can find on the NDWR website. We already talked about the newsletter, so let's move on to education and training. The planning team has been discussing how we can bring different opportunities for education and training to Nevada communities, whether that be conservation education or training about what you need to have in a water conservation plan. If you see a need or would like training on a specific topic, reach out to us and let us know, and we will see what we can do about it. We've also been keeping our eyes open for opportunities to bring in training from other agencies, whether that be a state or a federal agency or some other kind of nonprofit. So be alert, because as we come across training opportunities that we think that you would be interested in, we're going to try to bring those opportunities to our communities in Nevada. I want to thank you for allowing me a moment of your time to talk about the water planning and drought resiliency section. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.